for example. How many ways does this player have to remove an artifact? Okay, he has 3. I've already seen 2. If I can save a counter spell for the 3rd one, lines of reasoning like that start becoming pretty relevant in this matchup. Of note, they do not get access to these deck lists during the match. They get it before the match and during sideboarding time, but once the match starts, they're required to return the deck lists and do not get to see them until the match starts. So, finishing the review period, we have Jack Wang is going to be on the play. As he is the number 2 seed, he will be on the play this round, and he's on the play actually against everyone with the exception of Seth Zielinski, who's the 1 seed. Yeah, at 7-1. So he's going to be obviously choose then to be on the play. And if you think about the things that he wants to see here, he would really like to start the game on a Noble Hierarch or a Deathrite Shaman or a Mother of Runes. Those are the 9 creatures which I think are very important. As a result, Chris would really like to see Lightning Bolt in his opening hand. If Chris can start the game with something like Lightning Bolt off Volcanic Island Days, that's going to be the way that Chris can really establish that grip on the beginning of the game without being on the play. So yeah, so still in shuffling period. Outside of those threats, the last way that Jack can push a mana advantage game 1 on turn 1 is to Green Sun Zenith on 0. If you recall, most Maverick decks played 1 Dryad Arbor to go with to complement their 4 Green Sun Zenith package.
Yeah, then you can have the Zenith kind of act as a pseudo Llanowar elf in that way, where you're actually just tutoring up a land. One of the things you kind of mentioned earlier, I think, but why do you think Maverick has shown up and done so well this weekend?
And that's a really good question. I think there was a lot of Stoneblade out in force today, or I guess Esper Deathblade. As we saw a lot, Todd having winning 2 of the last 3 Legacy Opens with Deathblade. A lot of players were playing it today, and especially a lot of the good players were playing it today. Jack played it against Rudy Brixa in the top 8, defeated it 2-0.
Yeah, so I guess that's a nod to the Maverick deck. And yeah, I guess you saw Maverick kind of show up and be very popular last year to deal with a lot of those Stoneblade decks. Stoneblades sort of kind of fell off a little bit, and I think the blue-white control deck that sort of took its place was blue-white Miracles for a while.
Yeah, so we actually have a little bit of an interesting side story here. We kind of painted this, as Chris Pikula being the most experienced player in this top 4, but there's kind of another battle going on here between Seth Zielinski, Patrick Dixon, and Jack Wang. All 3 of them are regulars of the same local store here, which is called Red Cap's Corner. So all of them know each other. So basically, between the 3 of them, one of them has to figure out how to take down Chris Pikula's deck. Defend this SCG Open from the outsider, as it were.
And it is apparently a Philadelphia store. It is a store I've definitely heard of before, because I think we've had players in East Coast Open Series events from that store. So must be a pretty good group of players.
Yeah, well, there's at least a pretty good legacy following, I would say.
Yeah. So shout out to Red Cap's Corner. And good luck to all you guys, and of course, good luck to the Meddling Mage. Now, what card did he name that Jack can't play here? Is that?
Well, okay, all right. If you were in this situation, he has a nice Meddling Mage emblem. What card would you name here?
Geez, that's a good question. You know what? I don't like Thalia. I think maybe I just named Thalia because Chris's deck has a lot of spells and a lot of cheap spells, but he runs kind of very few lands, so I think the Thalia, making a lot of spells, basically costs twice as much.
Right. I think my vote would be, since he's on the draw, it would be Mother of Runes. If we could name any one card.
Okay.
That card pretty much demands a Force of Will or a Lightning Bolt, and if Jack gets to untap with a Mother of Runes, the game becomes exceedingly difficult for Chris Pikula.
That may very well be a better choice, but I have a feeling we're going to see both of those cards joining forces to try to take down Chris Pikula in this match. And Thalia can definitely be a pain, and Chris is stuck on 1 mana, and there's a Thalia and a Mother of Runes. Lightning Bolt doesn't help. So unless he can find another mana. So
both players still deciding on the mulligan here. We're going to bring you back into the booth for a second. Working out a couple details with the match. We'll bring you back as soon as we can.
Cool. So do you think? So we've got Maverick here showing up. We've got Rug Delver again. We keep talking about the fact that this top 8 has kind of been sort of a blast from the past. Do you think people are going to look at this weekend and say these decks need to come back, or do you feel like this is kind of a fluke?
Well, if you look at when you look at our top four, we have three decks that were really popular a year ago. We have Rug Delver, we have Maverick, we have Reanimator, and then we do have a newcomer, which is Shardless Bug. It was the deck that Jerry Thompson won the Invitational with. I would say the metagame still has changed. When you look at the other decks the other decks that showed up, you have Deathblade, you have Bug Delver, you have Punishing Rug. These are all newcomers to the format. Basically, these are all newcomers that are focused on the power of Deathrite Shaman. I really don't see that card going anywhere.
Yeah, definitely not. Deathrite Shaman has certainly made. I think it's got I'd say it's the biggest impact card from Return to Ravnica and since.
Right, so now the Emblem of Meddling Mage, we're going to see, can he deal with this? He did not have the Force of Will for the Mother of Runes. Does he have the Lightning Bolt for it?
So he does not, and you see a Polluted Delta from Chris on his turn. Karakas into Mother of Runes, Jack Wang's first turn, and his second turn appears to potentially be a Stoneforge Mystic, but he's considering that.
Well, this is a pretty huge opening for Jack Wang. It means that Chris Pikula is going to really have to try to race here as opposed to killing creatures. He does have a Stifle for one Mother of Runes activation, but the fact that Jack Wang has one of them resolved really puts Chris on a back foot.
And a Noble Hierarch the play off a Horizon Canopy for Jack Wang and passes back. Looks like a Tropical Island from Chris, and he's going to go ahead and play a Ponder.
Yeah, so Chris actually, as you saw here, did have a Nimble Mongoose. He had the ability to make some turn one plays, but I think he's recognizing that the ground is going to be fairly difficult for him to get through on, especially, not only does Jack have a Mother of Runes, but he, in general, plays a lot of large ground creatures. Chris isn't going to be able to answer any of those ground creatures due to Mother of Runes, so he's going to need to look for cards like Delver of Secrets to win this game.
Yeah, and I don't know that he has access to those. Ponder found, I believe, double Spell Pierce and a land, so he immediately shuffled and drew a random card from the top. Didn't quite catch what it was. It may have been that Volcanic Island that's in the front of his hand, but couldn't swear to it. He's going to crack his Polluted Delta here. And yeah, definitely saw at least one Nimble Mongoose in his hand. He's going to use that Polluted Delta to find a second copy of Tropical Island.
Yeah, it looks like Jack played Verdant Catacombs for the turn and tried to get that extra land, and Chris Pikula went ahead and stifled it.
Okay.
Yeah, as far as how good Stifles are here, it's not really a back-breaking Stifle. Remember, Jack on the play has his Resolve Mother Runes, has a Noble Hierarch. He can afford to lose a land that way.
And a Stoneforge Mystic, the follow-up play, and Chris is going to use his Force of Will to take care of that one.
So Chris is successfully navigating all the really strong, all the terrifying cards like Stoneforge Mystic that he can't deal with. But unfortunately, that reactionary game is really not where Rug Delver wants to be playing. It wants to be playing an aggressive game.
And he's going to start putting together something of an Air Force here with one copy of Delver of Secrets if he can get it to flip. He also adds a Nimble Mongoose to the board and passes back to Jack.
Now, one question here, whether or not Chris has yet another Force of Will. With the fourth land here, Jack has the ability to play and equip Stoneforge Umazawa's Jite that's just in his hand.
Yeah, he had that in his opener. And I believe they're figuring out something to do with the Horizon Canopy and the lands here. Maybe the life loss or something. But anyway, looks like Jack mid-fetch at this point.
Yeah, he may also be casting a Green Sun Zenith to try to find Knight of the Reliquary. There's a lot of lines that Jack can take. He doesn't have to be particular, he doesn't need to establish a presence right away right now. Remember, within Spell Pierces in Pikula's hand, Green Sun Zenith will probably not work here.
So it looks like that Green Sun Zenith for 3 taps all 4 of his lands. Chris has actually pitched his Daze to Force of Will. And so that Green Sun Zenith has actually resolved and is being shuffled back into Jack Wang's library here.
All right, so Knight of the Reliquary for Jack Wang. And that last card can't actually be a Spell Pierce from Chris Pikula. We certainly would have seen it played there.
I agree.
But he does now have a way to attack. He's found a Lightning Bolt to go with Delver of Secrets. So it now has an Insectile Aberration. It's swinging for 3. He does have a Lightning Bolt in hand. And he's going to go ahead and swing the team.
So it looks like the Knight of the Reliquary. He's going to check for Threshold. Just 4 cards in Chris's graveyard there. So Knight of the Reliquary from Jack is going to jump in front of that Nimble Mongoose, and the Nimble Mongoose is going to go away. Chris is going to go ahead and bolt the Knight of the Reliquary. In response, Mother of Runes tries to give her protection from red, and a Stifle will take care of that activation and deal with the Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah, a little bit of a greedy block there by Jack. You know that Chris has the Lightning Bolt, and so you look at it, one card left in hand. Why would he be making this attack? And the answer was Stifle.
Yeah.
But then again, maybe it's still a play he wants to make as Jack Wang. He had the option of making another Knight of the Reliquary, but he made the even stronger play here of equipping Umezawa's Jite, swinging with Noble Hierarch, getting counters, and
dealing with the Delver of Secrets. Yeah. So looks like Chris has decided, you know what? Let's go to game 2.
Yeah, with no way to get out from under that Umezawa's Jite, Jack Wang just really showed up the game. That shows the power there, I think, of the turn 1 Mother of Runes. Really, Chris never was able to get into the game after that card was on the board.
Yeah, I mean, it was only activated once. It only really mattered once, but it represented a lot more protection.
Right. The interesting thing about Mother of Runes is probably it has such a big impact on the board, and it never really taps.
Right.
Like,
and if it's tapping, it's because
it's probably dying.
It's dying, or something else is.
Right. The player who's killing it is accepting the 2-for-1 to be able to kill it.
Right.
He lightning bolted it. It took a lightning bolt and a Stifle to kill that Mother of Runes.
Right. Exactly. So that was that's the way you deal with Mother of Runes. Usually 2 cards.
Exactly.
So we saw game 1 over in blistering fashion there from Jack Wang. We're going to ask you guys another question for trivia, and we're going to give away some more premium.
All right.
So for those of you who may just have joined us and don't know how this works, we ask you guys a question. You tweet the answer using Twitter with the hashtag SCGPremium, which is down there, and one random correct answer will win 6 months of Star City Games premium access, and that will be tacked on to whatever premium you may already have.
Okay, well, sounds like a deal. Let's go ahead and start with the question.
So, we've been talking about GP Miami all weekend long. GP Miami coming up next weekend. The format is standard. The tournament organizer is StarCityGames.com, and Star City knows how to throw a party when it comes to Grand Prix. We've had some amazing ones in the past with the Gold Rush. This one is going to be no different. We've got 3 artists. We've got awesome commentator team. We've got all kinds of events happening. We've got a special play mat, actually, that's going to be given out to participants as long as supplies last. And I just want to know, who is the artist for the play mat for Grand Prix Miami?
Yeah, if you haven't had a chance to see the art on this, it's pretty nice. You can once again, you can find out more about the Grand Prix at www.magiccp.com.
Yeah, and that may actually have a way to find the answer to this trivia question. So you can look there for the answer, tweet the answer, and include the hashtag SCGPremium, and you're in the running.
All right.
So let's look at the sideboards here.
Well, Chris Pikula is going to be on the play this next game, which is really where Rug Delver wants to be. When he looks at the sideboard, he needs to look at ways to sometimes he's going to have to play from behind in this matchup. Hopefully, if everything goes according to plan, he never will. But as you saw there, when he didn't have the Force of Will or Lightning Bolt from Mother of Runes, he was already behind it. So when he is behind, he's going to have to look at, well, what cards can get him back into the game. And what the first thing we'll see here is the 2 Rough Tumbles in his sideboard. It's another removal spell that he can cast early, and it's another way really to deal with Mother of Runes, Deathrite Shaman, and Noble Hierarch, and even Thalia, the cards that give him the most trouble out of Jack's deck.
On Jack's side, he actually does have an additional Thalia that I expect him to bring in. He's also got a copy of Scavenging Ooze, a card that was one of the hallmarks, I think, of the Maverick deck, or was one of the staples that actually drove the price of that card up quite high because it was only available in a Commander box set. And Scavenging Ooze able to kind of eat away at Chris's graveyard, and I think a lot of the cards that are able to do that are able to keep those Tarmogoyfs and those Nimble Mongooses under control. Yeah,
and you really hit on the correct card at the end there. The reason Scavenging Ooze sees so much play is the fact that a Scavenging Ooze is one of the few green 2-drop creatures that can beat up Tarmogoyf in a fight. What Maverick has going for it is that even though Rug Delver has really efficient creatures, Maverick has bigger creatures. It's one of the few decks in Legacy that can afford to play creatures that are actually bigger, than a Delver of Secrets, bigger than a 3/3 Nimble Mongoose.
Right, you see cards that maybe they even start off small, but they grow bigger. You see Knight of the Reliquary being, starting as a 2/2, but it can get out of hand very quickly, and they can be in double digits, depending on the situation in the game. So That's one way he can go. He can also bring in that one of Bajuka Bog. It is just one slot. If he feels like, you know, that I want a nice one shot to deal with the Nimble Mongoose and a Tarmogoyf, it's a nice way to deal with that. He has 4 copies, I believe, of Knight of the Reliquary. It is one of his only 4 ofs as far as creatures go in his main deck. 4 Mother of Runes, 4 Knight of the Reliquary. Everything else is less than 4. So Knight of the Reliquary, a big card in the Maverick arsenal, and it can tutor up the Bajuka Bog quite easily.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways you can approach the matchup. Sometimes, you know, you can try to attack the graveyard. You can try to attack creatures. Remember, Rug Delver only plays 12 creatures. It plays Delver of Secrets, Tarmogoyf, and Nimble Mongoose. You can try to board enough removal spells that you can just run Chris out of threats. He does have, you know, he can board in Engineered Explosives. It's a really cheap way to take care of Delver, Flipped Delver. It's one of the only ways to take care of a Nimble Mongoose. He can board in a Path to Exile. He can also stay on his creatures plan. He doesn't want to board in too much removal, because really the game plan that Jack needs to do is keep his own creatures on the board. You know, in addition to the Rough and Tumble, the bigger card that Chris is going to board in, because Jack's playing Forests, Chris is going to have Submerge of ×3 coming in, almost certainly.
Yeah, free removal, pretty good. Another card I just want to point out that it's something to consider. You know, Chris is a resource denial deck. He stifles your your fetch lands, and he wastelands your dual lands. Life from the Loam there from Jack Wang may be able to kind of deal with a lot of that resource denial.
Yeah, you know, if Jack thinks this game is going to go till about turn 10, Life from the Loam will really win the game. But it'll be fair if it gets to the point where Jack's casting Life from the Loam, he probably already has his mission accomplished. Remember, Rug Delver really doesn't want the game. I was going to say doesn't want the game to go past turn 5. That's not entirely accurate, because sometimes it trades turns, you know, waste your land, waste your dual land, go. So turn number's a little suspect to talk about.
Yeah, because a lot of these matchups end up looking like they're on turn 1 when they're on turn 3 or 4.
Exactly.
So we've got a turn 1 Polluted Delta for the second game in a row from Chris Pikula. To start things off, Jack is going to have a turn 1 Mother of Runes.
All right, can Chris answer this game? It was so good against him last game.
And he does not have an answer for it, not as in the form of a counter spell. Now, if he has a removal spell, we may be seeing that here.
Yeah, now, Jack, remember, he does have a certain... one thing that he does want to do in this matchup, and this play wasn't available to him, if possible, when you play Mother of Runes on turn 1, you want to try to play it off basic planes in this deck just to play around that Submerge. Jack's only lands were a green fetch land, a wasteland, and 2 duals, so Jack wasn't able to make that play. But if he can avoid playing a forest for as long as possible, he does play around some of the cards in Chris's deck.
So looking at Chris's hand, at least the small amount of information we can get, I definitely see a Stifle, and there's a Brainstorm, so Chris is going to dig for some sort of answer to that Mother of Runes.
Yeah, Chris has at least 1 red card in his hand. It's very...
I think it's an Ancient Grudge. Is that... I mean, he did scoop to an Umazawa's GTA last
Yeah, so he did.
So.
It looks like he did board in one of his 2 Ancient Grudges. That said, it doesn't really seem like he wants the Ancient Grudge. He's going to put it on top with the Brainstorm and shuffle it away. He did find a Rough Tumble, and there's no way this isn't getting a Volcanic Isle.
Yeah, I think he's looking for a red source. I think he may have found a Lightning Bolt as well. I only got a quick look, but he may have actually found
right. So he does play. He plays 4 Lightning Bolt. He has 2 Rough Tumble out of the board. He has 1 Chain Lightning. You know, these 7 ways to deal with Mother of Runes, and you know, Mother of Runes isn't a new card. Someone who's been in the game as long as Chris knows just how important it is to kill that card before it
I'm
comes
sure
out.
He was cracking that card in packs when Urza's Legacy was a fresh set, as was I.
And right now the debate is not should he play a kill spell, it's which kill
spells. Yeah, and he's going to go ahead and just use that Lightning Bolt. So you're right, he does have that Rough Tumble. Goes ahead and uses the Lightning Bolt on the Mother of Runes, and so Chris is off to a reasonable start, able to answer the Mother of Runes. That's a better start than last game. And now Jack, on his second turn, fetches up a Forest, and is going to play Green Sun Zenith for 1.
All right,
Chris
so
says that resolves.
Yep, it's going to resolve. If you look at his 1-drops, I was going to say it would be Deathrite Shaman or Noble Hierarch, and almost certainly bound to be Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, so there you see the Deathrite Shaman hitting play. Chris now untaps on his 3rd turn.
And Jack Wang has once again forced Chris to be in the defensive role. You see, Jack is the one making creatures, and Chris is the one killing creatures. This isn't the way he wants the matchup to go.
Yeah. Rough Tumble, one of the split cards from I guess the original iteration of split cards. And I believe we're going to put that on the screen for you guys.
Yeah, it's one of the cards that really only sees play in the sideboard of Rug Delver, and we're going to see it cast right now. Most of the time, it's just used as a shock. You see its sorcery, it it's a sorcery for two mana. It deals, sorry, as a pyroclasm, it deals 2 damage to each creature without flying.
Yeah.
Or for tumble, it deals 6 damage to every flyer. You don't typically see the tumble ever used. The card is played instead of pyroclasm, I believe, mostly for the fact that it can get, there is extra utility for it.
Yeah.
It can get around. I suppose it could get around a counterbalance as well, or a spell snare.
Yeah.
Well, no, it doesn't get around spell snare. That's not
Nope.
correct.
No, yeah.
But
So, as you can see, a couple turns have already elapsed. Jack Wang plays a Wasteland, wastes away the tropical island from Chris,
Right.
but Chris has landed a Delver of Secrets, and now Jack is going to cast a play and crack a Windswept Heath.
All right, so apologies. Yeah, it's played. All right, it's played instead of pyroclasm because they want a way to pyroclasm without killing your own insectile aberration.
Okay.
And that's why it deals each damage to each creature without flying. You can cast it while having creatures on the board.
Right. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So a basic planes from Jack Wang, playing with and around Wasteland, and he has got an Engineered Explosives on the board for 1.
Yeah, and he's going to go ahead and crack it right away. He doesn't want that Delver of Secrets to have any chance to flip. And it would have flipped. Chris had left a Brainstorm on top of his deck.
Well, the interesting thing is he could have played that Engineered Explosives for 0 and then let it flip and then just busted the explosives.
Exactly.
That was another line open, and he would have had 1 mana open as well.
So interestingly, both creatures are kind of turning into control decks. We've seen each of them respond to kill spell for any creature the other one can play. That kind of game does favor Jack here. As you see, he does have a Knight of the Reliquary. He has waited to make sure that Knight is daze proof. And played his 4th land. But we will see Chris with a couple number of crafty ways to take that Knight back off the board.
So Chris used Brainstorm last turn. This turn he's going to cast a Delver of Secrets and then submerge that Knight of the Reliquary.
All right, Jack, probably going to run the exact same turn back.
Yeah, draw the Knight, play the Knight. Kind of feels a little like standard, right? Azorius Charm, all right, draw it, play it.
Right, and this is the reason why we're talking about not playing green lands initially. Submerge is a spell that don't be misled by the cost in the upper hand corner. It costs 0. You board it in and match up to your opponent plays it for us. So typically Tarmogoyf decks or Maverick decks for 0 it just puts a creature on top of its owner's library.
Yeah, it doesn't even need to be attacking like Azorius Charm, but and it can be free. So you can see the power of a card like that in a situation or in a deck like Rug Delver against a Forest deck. So Knight of the Reliquary does stick on the second go around, and Chris is now currently resolving a Brainstorm.
I believe this is during his upkeep. He wants to guarantee that his Delver is going to flip.
We've seen him do that this tournament.
Right, and he has another Submerge in his hand. We may see, if he's planning to submerge the Knight of the Reliquary again, we may see him reveal this to Delver.
He's going to reveal something else because I still see that Submerge in his hand. He's put 2 back.
And that's going to resolve, and he shows Stifle.
It's a Stifle. So Delver of Secrets flips.
All right, so now Chris has his own clock on the board. Delver's a 3/2, not actually as big as Knight of the Reliquary. And remember, Jack can use Dryad Arbor to push 2. Chris has gone a fair distance here in getting himself into the game despite only being on 1 land, but he is on the wrong side of the race right now.
And Insectile Aberration is going to come over for 3, knock Jack to 15, and Chris, with that Submerge, is able to kind of play defense if that Knight were to attack. But he may just want to cut off the ability of the Knight to tutor up a land here. He's going to cast it.
With 9 cards in graveyard, Chris was thinking about either casting a Nimble Mongoose or a Ponder. Interestingly, he decided to play Ponder this turn. And since he's already played a land, he's going to let the Mongoose come down the following turn.
So he's looking at the top 3 and looking at the 4 cards in his hand, which includes a Submerge, and Nimble Mongoose, and 2 other cards. His Ponder
One
looks
of them
like
is
it's shown.
Daze.
I think so he's got Stifle, Submerge. I think it's double Stifle, Submerge, Nimble Mongoose in his hand. His top 3 are Stifle, Polluted Delta. I'm sorry, Daze, Polluted Delta.
All right, well, Daze can't be very relevant right now, so he probably wants to draw. The hard part here, he's probably just going to shuffle, would be my guess.
Right, I mean, he could draw the Polluted Delta, but that doesn't help because he's going to draw a Daze next turn.
Because he can't play the land this turn.
Right.
If he could play the land this turn, he would probably keep the Polluted Delta and shuffle that way,
exactly.
drawing the lands. Well, even in that situation, I'm not even sure he wants to draw a land right now. Well, the reason he would want to do one is because if this Knight doesn't get submerged, Jack has a couple options. Jack can either attack with Knight to race, or Jack can use Knight of the Reliquary, as is often used in Mavericks, to continue to search up wastelands.
Yeah. And he's going to go ahead and submerge that Knight right now. And
Jack
that's the turn.
immediately
Jack
gonna
says, "Okay, draw,
again.
play
Okay.
it, go." Or maybe he wants to play a land. Okay, he's gonna swing with the Dryad Arbor there.
Yeah. Now Jack has, unfortunately, when Chris is going to try to race, Jack has a little surprise waiting for him here. Jack's hand is 2 lands, but one of them is a Maze of Ith.
And we're going to see that right now. There's that Maze of Ith. Now, we know Chris has access to Wasteland, but he does not have it available to him right now, unless it's the top card, and it is not. What it is a third Stifle.
Yep, he has a 3rd Submerge, 2 Stifles, and a Ponder
Okay.
and a Nimble Mongoose. This actually was a Ponder he drew. There is a, speaking of 3rd Stifle, there is one right on top of his deck.
Okay,
Looks
so
like,
it was Submerged that he drew then.
no, I believe he drew the Ponder for the turn. I think he's actually, when we thought he had double Stifle, I think he's had a lot of Submerges in his hand so far.
Well, he's cast 2 for sure.
Right, and he only has 3, so this is the last one. He doesn't
one.
play Snapcaster Mages. And Chris, not liking what he's seeing on top of his deck, is going to shuffle. He right now has no way to deal damage. And remember, Jack has the inevitability. Chris doesn't actually have ways to kill Knight of the Reliquary. He just has ways to delay it.
Now, is that, I believe, because... Yeah, I believe that Maze of Ith ability can be stifled.
He can be stifled. So
And
he
he's
can,
got 3, so he's been able to fog the Knight of the Reliquary every turn, and now he can push damage through if he wants to stifle the Maze activation. Yeah, attack. Maze is going to activate, targeting the Delver of Secret, or the Insectile
the
Library.
question is, does Chris Pikula want to turn his stifles into lava spikes? And
that's,
yeah,
that's what he's going to do. So stifle the Maze, and 3 damage to Jack. Jack's going to go to 12.
So I like how Chris is playing this. You know, originally this is a game plan that is probably not going to work. And what I like is that I think Chris knows that. And so a lot of times players really don't like making bad lines. You know, you say like, well, no, there's no way I can win this way. But I think Chris has correctly identified that, well, this is a bad line, but this is the line this hand needs to play. And so, you know, he does have some lightning bolts left in his deck. He does have another Stifle. You know, if you get enough lava spikes, you can win. So what he's hoping to is either continue to draw lightning bolts and Stifles, or maybe hope that he can get that Wasteland off the top of the deck.
And Dryad Arbor comes across for another 1, and knock Chris to 16, and it looks like Jack is going to activate that Knight, finding
he's
a
on the Wasteland plan. And the first thing Jack's going to want to do is to take Chris off of, well, green mana, so Chris can't cast cards. Create more threats onto the board.
So you see the Wasteland takes out Chris's Tropical Island.
And so just a couple notes on some plays of how Chris has been playing this. You saw last turn he pondered instead of making Nimble Mongoose, and I think that's another observation where he just didn't think he'd ever be connecting on the ground.
Thought Scour from Chris is going to scour away a Wasteland.
And that would have been a very good Wasteland for him.
Yeah, it's exactly the card that he wanted, but...
He's going to go ahead and say go. It looks like Chris is running out of place here. Jack really solidifying his advantage. He's going to get a second Knight of the Reliquary, or possibly a Scavenging Ooze. He's going to something to close the game off here.
So are you sure Chris has that extra Submerge? Just the fact that Jack is able to keep that Knight going, making me feel
possibly not.
Yeah.
And getting the Scavenging Ooze, that's going to be enough. Chris Pikula down 2-0. Jack Wang into the
there was
finals.
no Submerge. It looks like it was 3 Stifles.
3 Stifles.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating to just not. You keep seeing the same card that, you know, maybe it's not a dead card, but it's not the card you really want, and then you draw another one, and then you draw another one, and there's, you know, other cards that are 4-ofs in your deck, and you just don't see them, and just somehow, sometimes that's just how it goes. So Jack Wang onto the finals with Maverick.
Right, so once again now, all 3 of these players friends from the same store. One of them is going to take home the trophy today. Jack Wang now in the wings. He's gone 2-0, 2-0 in both of his matches in the top 8. He'll be waiting for either Seth Zielinski or Patrick Dixon in the finals.
Haven't gotten any updates from that other match, but we'll see if we can bring that to you guys in just a moment. Of course, we would like to show you guys as much Magic as possible, and I believe we've got those guys already set up under some cameras. We just have to do the old switch.
We'll switch over to their match.